I'm Ron. This is from my Ferrari 430 Scuderia, and I'm about to change over the clutch position sensor magnet from the old throw-out bearing to the new one. Before I do, though, I just want to go over one more time all the parts here that we've got on the gearbox side of the clutch replacement. Here's the flange. This is the Hill Engineering very expensive flange. Mine is in good shape still, the old one, but here it is. This one goes against the gearbox and is open inside for the fluids, F1 fluid, or clutch fluid, to flow through. Goes in and out from the gearbox here, sealed by these O-rings against the gearbox, which you'll see when I put it together. And fluid flows in and out. And these seals on the throw-out bearing, on the flange, keep the fluid within there, so that's what causes the throw-out bearing to slide back and forth on the flange to move the clutch. So with the flange, one thing that didn't come out of the old car are these spacers, but they're shown in the parts diagrams a couple of places and in the workshop manual. These spacers go into here for the springs, which it gives you a little bit more pressure on the springs. Speaking of which, the workshop manual does show you a spec for the springs, what they should be normally open, fully compressed, and a certain measurement, what kind of pressure it takes, newton meters, or newtons, excuse me. Okay, these are the end of stroke pins. They sit there, and there's the other two bolts that hold it on to the gearbox. So now you're looking at the front of the gearbox. The gearbox spline comes out here, and then you have your clutch position sensor, which gets attached here with these two hex head screws, and then, well, that's the bracket for it, and here's the actual sensor, which lies in there and gets screwed in there and sits there. What happens is the magnet in that square there is in this slot here, sliding up and down, and this Hall effect sensor senses the position of the magnet and tells the computer where it's at. One thing to be careful of when I was taking this apart, these two hex head screws in here, these are 3 millimeters, I stripped one of them. So I was able to grab it with a vice grip and get it off of there without breaking the block here. And I have new screws to replace them. Okay, and the last thing is when this sits on here, I'll hold it up in a second. You see how these pins, end of stroke pins, actually get mounted here, like so. And then the flange, excuse me, the throw-out bearing slides up and down on these pins. Now in the old flange, when I took everything apart, there was white silicone sealant in each one of these screw holes into the gearbox. So that's just of note as well. Okay, so put some of this stuff aside. To change the magnet out now and move the holder from one to the other, first thing I want to do is check the polarity of the magnet. So I put the new one in the right way. The new magnet comes in a bag that came with the clutch position sensor. So I've got a bar magnet here where I put a dot on one side. It's irrelevant which is plus and minus, just as long as I know there's one side and the other. And I put this to the bottom of this, and that sticks. The other side repels. So, okay, let's say the dot has to stick to the bottom. If I look at the new magnet, I can see there's a side that sticks and a side that repels. So I want to make sure that it gets oriented the same way. I'll take that magnet out a little bit later. But the big thing is getting this pin out here. This pin right here, roll pin, well, you tap it out. Well, I didn't have I had a set of pins, but I didn't have one small enough. So what I'm using here is my hex head H2 hex head bit that I use. And I tapped it here, and I started tapping it. You could tap it the old-fashioned way with the hammer as such, or whatever you want to do. I actually cheated a little bit and got it started real quick. As you see, it did get started by using my electric hammer. Put that on there, give it a couple of baps, and it started it right out. Okay, there was a quick edit there because my battery died. But I tried with a pair of pliers. Once I shot that through, pulling the pin out, no luck. I tried a couple of pair of pliers, and all I ended up doing was bending or breaking the pin, the end off the pin. It didn't really matter. I knew that I had a new pin. So what I need to do is get something small enough, like a very small Phillips head, Allen wrench, stick it in there and tap that through. I think I'm just going to tap that through with a regular hammer. Try to anyway. See what happens. There's the pin. Pin is out. The rest of the pin, move it aside. And I should be able to turn this out, although this is supposed to have some Loctite in it. Let's see. Let's see here. What kind of wrench would fit around that block here? Here we go. Something like that to turn it a little bit. Yes, it's not threaded, but I'm turning it so it loosens out. Try to pull on it as I turn. There you go. Good. Done? Done. There's the old one. There's the new one. Okay, so now let's replace that magnet in there. And we'll open this up. As I said, my dot was facing up underneath this for polarity. One more time, check. Dot up underneath polarity. There's a little rubber ring in there to keep it compressed tight down. Looks like. Push that through from this side. Yes, see? There's some little rubber ring on the top of the magnet. Help keep it in place. So this side was facing down. New magnet here. Place it in here one way. Let's see if that's right. It's wrong. Push it out. Flip it over. Put it in. See if that's right. That seems to be right. Let's push it flush in. Yes, that's right. Okay, put the O-ring back on. The screw cap back on. Let me check to see if I need any sealant on any of that. Thread sealant. I'll be right back. Okay, so the answer is yes. The workshop manual does want us to use a thread lock, a medium strength, which is my blue here, Permatex, medium strength thread lock on both the sealing cap to the magnet as well as on the shaft of this pin that goes into the thrust bearing. So we're going to try to get that thing set up first with the roll pin. That's going to be a little bit of a trick. So let's put a little, as it says, apply some, to the end of the pin, contact with the thrust bearing. So put a little bit on this thing. Okay. A little bit more than I intended. Dab off. Okay. Put it in here. Now, so here's what I ended up doing. Using my channel locks, small ones, I squeezed the pin to get it started in there. And I also had to have my shaft in there. And I had a hex in here to hold that in the right position so that it lines up with the pin. Now I'm using my electric hammer again. instead of trying to tap it and taking forever, and seeing if this could help me here. And see, it goes right in with the electric hammer. Boom, 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 I'm in. Couple more taps. Couple more taps. And I can see it's in on both sides. A little tweak adjustment maybe. And there we go. Magnet is in the right spot. Right direction. That little spacer, little O-ring, has to fit inside the cap of this screw. What you could see is just a screw to hold that magnet in. That too, they want some medium strength thread lock on, which I'm going to do right now. Just a little bit around there. And they say to hand tighten the threaded cap. Okay, I'll get it positioned properly. And just hand tighten, and we're good. There you have it.